In terms of being audacious and being boisterous or being controversial, the first thing you have to realize is nobody wants to hear what you have to say until you give them a reason to want to hear what you have to say. And for me, in each industry that I've been in, whether it was the computer reselling industry and systems integration industry when I had Micro Solutions, or now into digital privacy and shrinking your digital footprint with CyberDust, each time I've made the effort to go out and connect to the media within that industry, whether it was trade publications or, in the case of the Mavericks, ESPN and television networks. And I've really, really worked hard at trying to be as educated about that industry as I possibly could be, and position myself as just that, being very educated in that industry. From there, I picked up the saying from a guy named Randy Galloway, who was a radio host in Dallas for a long time, and he always said, you always got to check your whole card. And what I've used the media to always go out there and put out a hypothesis, or put out an idea, or put out a perspective, not being afraid to be wrong, knowing that if I am wrong, worst case, I'm going to learn. And from that, it led to a lot of people thinking I was a little bit crazy, because I would put out suggestions and thoughts that made perfect sense to me, that other people thought couldn't possibly be right, but gave me also the opportunity to hear their feedback to see if I'm right or if I was wrong. That same concept led to me, when I got to the Dallas Mavericks, trying to take what seems now to be obvious, but I looked at our players and said, look, we're paying $1 million or more each to these players, yet when it came to talent development or skill development, we had 3 coaches who were responsible for coaching the team and also responsible for developing these players into better players. To me, that was crazy. I mean, we literally, at the Dallas Mavericks, they spent more on training for computers than they did in trying to train our 15 players to be better professional basketball players. So I was the first to come in and say, you know what, we're going to add as many assistant coaches as it takes to put our players in a position to succeed and give them the development skills they needed to be the best player they possibly can be. Boy, I got so much flack and so much heat. There were headlines everywhere saying, Cuban has more assistant coaches than players. Cuban has 3 times the number of assistant coaches as any other team in the league. Cuban has more assistant coaches than the rest of the Southwest Division combined. And now, if you look at it, they're called player development coaches, and every team has got more player development coaches than it would ever be conceived of back then, because it just made sense. And so I guess the bigger point when it comes to being audacious and outrageous and over the top, do the things that make perfect sense to you, but don't be afraid to shout it to the mountaintops just because it's outside the box or against the grain in your industry, because more often than not, you're probably going to be right.